Israel's war has shattered Gaza's education system. Instead of taking their lessons at desks in classrooms, children here learn in tents and temporary shelters. For teachers like Amna Rizik, every day is a struggle to teach under harsh conditions.
Learning and psychology are interconnected fields. The war affected the students psychologically, which had a big impact on their education.
The Education Ministry estimates nearly 400 schools have been damaged or leveled, including more than 100 run by UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. More than 17,000 students and 760 teachers were killed, thousands more injured or displaced.
The tents don't protect us from the sun and from the rain in winter. The students faces a lot of difficulties as well. They can't concentrate in our teaching.
Classrooms stand roofless, their desks and blackboards buried under concrete slabs and dust.
More than 80% of schools have been destroyed in this genocide war. In addition to many students lost their homes, they lost also their family members.
Classrooms that have reopened are overcrowded, with the children studying in shifts.
Here in Gaza, Israeli strikes have destroyed most of the schools. With the classes now held in tents, there simply isn't enough space for every child. Thousands remain out of school, still waiting for a chance to return to learning after the war. Ibrahim al-Khalili, Jazeera, Deir el-Balah, Gaza, Palestine.
Let's go to UNICEF's Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa. Edward Naidlet said in a statement that the ceasefire must hold and it must deliver more than calm, it must deliver action. Words and numbers alone can't convey the scale of the impact of children that I saw, an impact that will last for generations. Well, let's now speak to UNICEF spokesperson Tess Ingram, joining us live now from Al-Mawasi in southern Gaza. Thank you for speaking to us here at Al Jazeera. Looking at your report, it says Gaza is the most dangerous place in the world if you're a child. How so?
We've been saying this for more than 2 years now, that the Gaza Strip has been the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. And that's because sheer numbers of children who've been killed and injured, displaced, separated from their families, who have lost a loved one. A classroom of children was killed every single day for 2 years in this conflict. And the scars of what the children have endured will last for many, many years to come.
Now, the ceasefire we know is holding so far. So what's being done now as we speak for the children of Gaza? And where does one even begin, for example, for UNICEF, given the scale of destruction, famine, malnutrition, and the list goes on?
The ceasefire is good news in that children aren't being killed and injured by the bombardments every day. But what a ceasefire doesn't do in and of itself is get a child back to school or stop them from starving or give them clean water tomorrow. And so that's what we're focused on at the moment, is meeting children's immediate life-saving needs, fighting the famine with nutrition treatments, trucking safe drinking water to families, and helping them prepare for winter because it's getting colder here in Gaza and families need shelter, blankets, and warm clothes for their children. But at the same time, we are also beginning the early recovery of systems here in Gaza, health systems, nutrition systems, but also the education system. We really want to get all 650,000 school-aged children back into in-person learning.
Yeah, you're just talking about the education. That actually brings me to my next question, Tess, because UNICEF was already trying to provide makeshift schools during the war with limited access or reach, if you like. But how essential is it now in this time frame to restore the education? And how can you practically go about that when schools that were used as shelters have been destroyed and children don't necessarily have the means to be able to go to school?
Education isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. And so the importance of restoring education right now can't be overstated. So many of the families that I speak to here in the Gaza Strip mourn the more than 2 years of lost learning that their children have been forced to endure and really want to get them back into the classroom as soon as possible because they know that a proper education will lead to a foundation for a strong Gaza in the future and healing for themselves, their children and their community. We reached 100,000 children with learning throughout the conflict, which wasn't easy, but we managed to do that through, as you say, tents that we set up as temporary learning spaces for children in displacement sites or shelters. Now we want to expand that. So we will set up more of these temporary learning spaces while we do the necessary work to repair the damage in the few schools that remain and ultimately rebuild new schools. But there are challenges in that project. We need to clear rubble. We need to clear unexploded bombs to make sure it's safe for children to return. And of course, we need to get in the materials which are still being denied. Education materials for children are not being let into the Gaza Strip at the moment.
And, you know, is there a fear at all that there could potentially be a lost generation when it comes to education? Because if you look at the Gaza Strip before the war, it had some of the highest levels of education in the world compared to the population.
It did, and I think that's what gives us hope that we can get the vast majority of children back into learning because there is such a desire for that to happen here. The children want it and they tell me that when I speak to them. The families recognise how important it is. So really, the enthusiasm for it exists here in Gaza, and now we just need the collective will and the international support needed to overcome those challenges that I mentioned, like clearing rubble and unexploded bombs, doing the reconstruction work, supporting teachers to go back into the classroom, and of course, getting those much needed materials into the Gaza Strip.
OK, thank you very much for speaking to us. UNICEF spokesperson there, Tess Ingram in Al-Mawasi.
Don't miss out, get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.